Good. So, despite the fact that we tried to begin later than expected, instead of 5:30, we begin at 6. But despite this fact, there are only two people in the meeting, except Oleg and me. But anyway, we won't have any seminar-like thing today. Greetings, everyone. Greetings, Nadia. Greetings, Anastasia. Um, I didn't really know, and I can't remember whether you were here last time. Maybe Anastasia was here. No, Nadia
No,
was here.
I wasn't there. This is my
Oh, you
first time
wasn't.
with you. Yes,
Okay.
hello.
Yeah.
Nice to
Okay.
meet you.
Nice to meet you. But maybe I remember of your face from Eleonora's
Yes,
webinar.
I was
First
at
one.
her
Yeah,
lecture. Yeah.
that's it. That's it. Okay. So my name is Tamas Bokor, still from Corvinus University of Budapest, from the Institute of Marketing and Communication Sciences. And today's webinar will be kind of a lecture which consists of three major parts under the collective title business communication, and the broader address and the broader label on today's webinar is personality and business planning. The three main parts which it consists of is firstly a personality test. I will present this, and before you fill it in and before you get the final result for this test, this is going to be a homework, possibly for all of you. I'm going to explain a background of the importance of this personality trait, which we can measure with this test. The second part will be kind of a bridge between this personality test and business planning. I'm going to explain shortly what is important, especially in an Eastern European environment, in order to be a successful entrepreneur, a businessman, which are the most important things to know in terms of communication when it comes to business presentations and self-representation. And the third major part of today's webinar will be a plan sheet, a business canvas modeling, which I will present, and I'm going to give it to you as another homework, which you can work on later on. So let's begin with the administrative um, issues and tasks. Firstly, and most importantly, I uploaded the webinar's content on Moodle. As you can see, there is this Moodle platform. The first webinar is still missing from here because I haven't got it from Eleonora, who was on stage in the first week, 2 weeks ago, or maybe last week, I can't remember. So that was the first webinar for sure about the country-specific traits of entrepreneurship in Hungary. I really hope that we can catch up with this material, and she would send it to us as soon as possible. So here's the room for this presentation and other material. The second webinar was on the last week with me, which was about the aspects of business presentations, as you may have remembered, or maybe you saw the video which was made during this Zoom webinar. And I uploaded the total set of presentation about the aspects of business presentation, the visual aspects. And I uploaded something which I promised to you, reflecting on some students' requires. It's a book from Parker and Moore about the critical thinking. So how to argue successfully, how to make reasonable arguments, how to make effective influencing on other people. which is kind of a rhetorical and socio-psychological thing. But I think this book, titled Critical Thinking, is an easy and hands-on book. Such a long one, but don't be afraid of that, because it's really easy to read with many of concrete, particular examples of the meaningful and successful reasoning in everyday arguments, and both on the business level. So it's just not a compulsory material. I would say it's just an option for you to open your minds and get to know better with the argumentation system, with the language-based argumentation in our everyday life and in our communication. And today's webinar has 3 files on Moodle. The first one is the personality and the business planning. It's the slideshow of today's webinar. The second one is the assertiveness test, which will be on stage in some minutes. I'm going to show you this, the whole content. And the third one is this business canvas I mentioned before. So basically, we work with these ones today. And later on, from the next week, when I'm right, there's going to be one of my experienced colleagues on stage, Professor Zita Komar. She will present you some interesting facts about the soft power, the female power in presentations and in business communication. So how to act effectively and successfully as business women, especially in the Hungarian field. So what are the basic requirements, and what are your hidden options for actualizing your soft power as women, even against the negotiations with men. Okay, so let's begin with this assertiveness questionnaire. If you click on it and if you open it, you will find a file, a doc file, which is 4 pages long. It's an assertiveness formative questionnaire. It is actually a technical report about the whole questionnaire, which has an overview, which explains what this questionnaire measures. It's about the self-efficacy. It's about to what extent am I assertive? What means this? What does this mean? What is assertiveness in reality? When I can actualize my wants, my needs, and my thoughts in a way that I'm not hurting my communication partner, I won't become too aggressive against them, him or her. And as long as I can actualize my own wants, my needs, my thoughts in a good manner, in a soft, communicative way, until then we can say that I am assertive. It is kind of a contradiction between assertiveness and aggressiveness. People who are aggressive, well, they don't really take other people's viewpoint into account. So they just go along, and they don't really care about others' feelings. Somebody who is assertive, they can achieve their goals effectively. They can achieve what they want, really, the way that other people can be satisfied with the situation as well. So yeah, there was a comic in a comic book back in the 1980s where a dog sits by the door, and he thinks in his head, I want to go out, but I don't really want you, my owner, to go out with, because I want to go out. I want you to want to go out. So that is kind of a manipulative assertiveness. I want you to be satisfied with the situation, and in the meantime, I want to actualize my own need. together with you. Okay, as your homework, I really like you to fill in this questionnaire, which is on the last page of this document. As you can see, here we have the questionnaire, the assertiveness questionnaire. The task is quite simple. Please check one response, not now, it is your homework. Check one response that best describes you. Try to be honest, since the information will be used to help you in school and also help you become more prepared for college or careers or entrepreneurship or anything else in reality. There are no right or wrong answers. And after that, you will find 20 sentences, and you have to judge to what extent is that particular sentence not very like you, or to what extent is it very like you. The more it is very like you, the higher score you will give. So 1 score represents it's not that true in my case, and if it's absolutely true to you, you will give a 5. And accordingly, 2, 3, or 4 points to each of the sentences. After finishing this task, you could or you should get back to page 3 and take a look at this set of sentences, which is a repetition from the previous page. These are the 20 sentences, and everywhere where you see this N in brackets, for example, here or here or here, you see the N, it means that the points must be reversed. So these questions are framed negatively and therefore reversely scored and designated with N. What does it mean? If you gave a 5 point to this particular question, it's reversely scored as 1. If you give a 1, it means that it reversely scored, it is 5. If you give a 2 points to a particular sentence, this is going to be a 4. And if you make it as a 4, if it must be reversed, this is going to be a 2. And besides these, 3 points stays 3, because you cannot reverse this on a 1 to 5 score scale. So this is the system itself, but you should only apply this in case of the 3rd, the 5th, the 6th, the 7th sentence, and in case of the 15th. So everywhere where you can see the N. That is the secret of this. Oh, and in case of 8, sorry. That is the secret of this kind of test, and it's a psychological measurement tool, which means that you will get a point in the end of the test. So you will get something which is between 20 points, because the minimum amount of the points can be 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1, etc., which results in 20 if you mark all of the sentences with a 1. And the maximum points can be 5 times 20, which means 100. So if you mark each of the sentences with 5 points, then you will be able to reach the 100 points. But what do these results mean in reality? Now, I could recommend to read through these technical information. It is a brief description about the meaning of the test. But here and now, I try to provide you some supplementary explanation about the assertiveness. If you take a look at this graph, you can see that 3, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 15, number 15 are the reverse score items. So, and the final scale goes from 20 to 100 in this test. But regarding assertiveness, there are main factors. Here, two different main categories. One category is to what extent do I respect other people and their feelings, needs, emotions, their wants, their thoughts. The second one is to what extent do I or can I express my wants, my needs, and my thoughts. These two categories are separated in the previously shown list of sentences as well. So if we get back here, you can find that here we had a bunch of sentences from 1 to 13, which were about the expression of wants, needs, and thoughts. And the second bunch from 14 to 20 is about the respect which I can show towards other people. So these are the two main categories, however, there are 5 or at least 5 subcategories. The first one is the level of personal participation in non-mediated interpersonal relationships. So to what extent am I open to communicate with even foreign people? For example, in case of one-man business, which is run by just one entrepreneur, you cannot avoid to contact with many of unknown people, unfamiliar people. It is quite uncomfortable for some of the people sometimes. It depends on the personality type. If you are an extroverted person and not an introverted one, you will have easy times to get to know better with foreign people. But if you are an introverted type, you will have hard times with it. And it interrelates to some extent with the question of the respect towards others. The second one among the sub-factors is the presentation of my own feelings. And I really hope that at this point you started to be curious of your individual results, but please do it after the webinar. It takes some time and it requires some attention. So I strongly recommend you to make it in an empty half an hour where there is silence around you and you can calm down and think through these sentences. Okay, so the presentation of my own feelings. How can I express my feelings? How am I friendly with this kind of activity? Do I have hard times while showing what I am feeling, what I think, what my opinion is about particular things? Or do I have the highest and easiest time when it comes to show my feelings towards other people? The expression of wants, needs, and thoughts consists of 3 main categories or sub-chapters in terms of the categorization of the results. The first one is the self-actualization in different commercial situations. You definitely have this experience when you get into a restaurant and the waiter or the waitress is rude to you. You get cold soup instead of a nice, warm, delicious one. You don't get the service which you were paying for. And the question when it comes to this reclamation process, whether you stand out for yourself and you don't hesitate to communicate these problems to the people who are around you, the waiter, the owner, etc., etc., or you remain silent and yeah, you just suffer in yourself. So to what extent do you actualize yourself in different commercial situations? Do you make a reclamation? Do you require some, added bonus if you are a customer somewhere, etc., etc.? The fourth one, the upcoming one, the capability of saying no. Well, it's an adventurous thing. It can be a bit surprising how people are just fear of saying no to something. If somebody is proposed to do something, they just often accept the invitation to do it without any hesitation, without asking about the background, etc., etc. There was an interesting experiment in the late 1980s in the USA, where the point was that a young man get onto different bus lines. So he got up to the bus, and the task was to claim for the seat on the bus, which were occupied by elder people. The young man just stepped next to the old people, the old lady or the old, the old man, and he just said, "I would like to sit down. Please give over your place for me." There was no impoliteness. The guy wasn't rude, wasn't aggressive at all. It was just an assertive, self-actualizing sentence. I would like to sit down and I want you to give over your seat for me. And the surprise was that in the good, more than 80% of the situations, more than 80%, it was a successful initiation. So the guy got the seat on the bus from old people who really needed that seat. And firstly, they sat there. So yeah, they just gave it over after a polite and, comforting, self-actualizing sentence. And they didn't ask back, why should I give over to you? Why should I give my place to you? You're a young man. You don't really need this. I'm old. I have challenges in my movement, etc. And yeah, people don't say no, basically, in most cases. In the 4/5 of the situations, so over 80% of the situations, they don't ask back. And if you can be assertive enough in your communication, if you can be polite and at the same time determined and categorical, that it's a kind of a success in the communication. And yes, there is a fifth factor, which is the lack of self-confidence and self-knowledge. The more I know about myself, the more I know myself, the more I know the experience about my working mechanisms, my coping mechanisms, the more assertive I can be. It interrelates, I mean, the level of self-knowledge interrelates with the level of assertiveness. That is also important, and that's why you should work on yourself as an entrepreneur to get to know with yourself better from day to day, because the more you know your strengths and weaknesses, the more determined you can be in terms of your everyday communication and in terms of your business communication as well. So let's move on to the distribution of the results, which is kind of an interesting thing. I don't really know about your schooling background, whether you learned mathematics or whether you like math at all, but maybe you know what kind of function is this, what is on screen. What kind of distribution is this? Any idea? Mathematically, it's a particular type of functions. It's a particular type of, yeah, I'm gonna check the chat. It's a normal, or I would say, in other words, it's a Gaussian from Frederick Gauss, who invented this kind of distribution. It's a Gaussian dispersion or normal dispersion of the results. The situation is the same here, just like in case of the intelligence. Just take a quick look at this diagram. I don't want to show you too much frightening mathematical diagrams, but let me have it, because it shows that if I measure the intelligence in a certain population, I will have an average result in a big sample, an average result with the majority of 100 IQ points. And if I move to the right, I will find even smarter and smarter people with an IQ over 130 and even 145, etc. But the higher the IQ is, the less people are represented in that high level category. And if I begin to move to the left, to the lower level of IQ, I will find even less and less people with an IQ of 70, or even less with an IQ of 55. So it means that the center, the average of the results, is the peak point of the dispersion of the function. And if I move to the right or to the left, the number of people with that particular IQ value decrease gradually. And the situation is the same here when you imagine that you could gain your points between 20 and 100. The center of this number is 60, inevitably. So the peak point of this function and this dispersion is 60 points. And if I move to the right, I will find the 100 points here, but not too many people are represented with an assertiveness level of 100 points in a 20 to 100 point scale. And if I move to the left, in the end of the function, in the left end of the function, I will find the 20 point assertiveness level, but it's also quite rare. So the majority of particular population, the majority is somewhere in between 50 and 70 points in a 20 to 100 scale. So that is the average level of assertiveness in the population. I haven't mentioned yet that this test, which is included into this, questionnaire technical description, is valid above 14 years. So you can do it with teenagers, you can do it with adults or older people. The result will be valid, but it's not valid under the age of 14. So younger teens and smaller children cannot be measured properly with this psychological tool. It was just a footnote, but maybe it's important. And now, after discussing this, that the average is somewhere between 50 and 70, you will be able to judge your individual result in comparison with the population's average. But there are two major concerns which must be discussed in terms of assertiveness. As I mentioned before, there is big difference, a really huge difference between being aggressive and assertive. Assertive, the word itself, stems from the Latin language. The asserto is a verb which describes that I need something, I urge for something. When I'm aggressive, then I step against the other people and I even attack them in some way. And the third major category is the submission. When somebody is submissive, then he or she has a total lack of assertiveness. So they don't really tend to actualize themselves. They just lay down and they just let things happen, what other people like to happen, what other people like to do with them, etc., etc. So it's not that typical successful behavioral scheme in terms of the psychological traits. Before I add details to this, the first issue which must be clarified is the relation between the level of assertiveness and the level of intelligence. Because, yeah, as you may have noticed, these two different, distribution functions look like just the same. These are both Gaussian dispersions, but do we have any relation between the IQ level and the assertiveness level? So what is this situation? What is the matter with the statement that if somebody is at a higher IQ level, could we say that he must be more assertive? Or is it true that if somebody is not that smart in terms of intelligence, then he or she must not be so assertive? Is it true or is it false? What is the matter? What do you think? So to what extent do they walk together? I mean, the IQ and the assertiveness. That is the question. And nobody is that brave that they would like to give an answer. It's not a problem. It's a classic situation. I did get used to it, so no problem. Yeah, maybe the world would be a bit different place when people with a higher IQ would be more assertive and people with the lower level of IQ would be the last or the least assertive. But unfortunately, there is no official interrelation between, assertiveness and intelligence. Because this is not the explanatory factor. If we look for an explanation, if we look for the resource of the assertive behavior, we cannot see that IQ determines the level of assertiveness, the level of the communication techniques for self-actualization. We find another factor which is even more important in the question of, or the level of assertiveness. This factor is the emotional intelligence. In terms of EQ, so emotional quotient in emotional intelligence level, well, it is a good predictor to the assertiveness level, which means that the more emotional I am towards other people's issues, feelings, needs, wants, and thoughts, the more assertive I can be. And the least empathetic I am, or emotional I am, the least assertive will I be. And here you definitely have some kind of advantage as women entrepreneurs, because it is often cited that when it comes to emotions, when it comes to, the empathy towards other people, ladies are better in this field, basically, comparing to men, because of, human ethological reasons. It has its roots in the literature review, but I won't dive deeper into the topic. The point is that basically women have some advantage in being assertive because they try to basically and often try to avoid aggressive patterns in communication. And as long as we won't get to an aggressive behavioral scheme, we can be successfully assertive in the interpersonal communication situations. And the second thing which must be explained is this okay, not okay matrix, which was formulated by Harris in 1976. And it's kind of 2 x 2 matrix, which describes 4 potential scenarios. The first axis shows that you are okay with me or you are not okay with me, see above and below. And moving from the left to the right, the second axis shows 2 different scenarios. I am not okay with myself, or I am okay with myself. Being okay with myself or with the communication partner means that we know our goals, we are prepared for the communication, we know why we are there, we know what we would like to achieve from this communication, from this situation. I regard my communication partner as a valid partner, so I see them prepared, determined, assertive enough, etc., etc. What I'm talking about is the green zone. When I am okay with myself and you are okay with me, it's the healthy communication position, and we can get on happy with each other. It is the situation where both of the communication partners or parties are assertive enough and determined and self-actualizing people. Let's observe the opposite. When I'm not okay with myself and you are not okay with myself, with me, it's kind of a hopeless position. We cannot get anywhere. To change this, at least one of us have to be more assertive, have to start the self-actualization, have to clear, have to get clear with their needs or wants and thoughts. Up left, I'm not okay, but you are okay for me. It's the one down position where I try to get away when I feel myself helpless. My communication partner proves to be more prepared, more ready, more hands-on, easygoing, prepared, determined, and self-actualizing than me, and it creates a kind of a helpless feeling in my inner guts. So I have to increase the level of my assertiveness in this situation. And down right, I'm okay with myself, but you are not okay for me. Imagine a kind of negotiative situation where you feel that you made your homework, you definitely know what to search for in this negotiation. You feel that you are prepared, your will is powerful, and then there's a communication partner who is hopeless, who is unprepared, who is too tired, who doesn't really know what they search for in this situation, and you cannot get along with each other. You try to get rid of him or her, and maybe you start to feel angry with them. In this situation, the solution would be if the communication partner, the problematic partner, could increase his or her level of assertiveness. So the goal in each scenarios are, or sorry, the goal is to get to the upright section into the green zone where I am okay with myself and you are okay with me. That is the kind of the secret of assertiveness. It only works where ideally when both of the communication partners are prepared enough to be ready to actualize their wants, their needs, and their thoughts. And given that we don't really have much time, we just skip some of the tasks I prepared for you. Unfortunately, this online kind of webinar is not, that ideal for group working, but later on, maybe we will have enough time for that. And I'm gonna begin with a bridge towards the business planning. Each and every business plan and each and every business strategy needs some kind of rhetoric, needs some kind of communication by yourself and about your plans, about your needs, and about your ideas. And we have basically three different necessities of these kinds of rhetorical situation. It stems from the ancient Greek concept of the triad of rhetorics. Well, it began with Aristotle and Socrates, who created basically the basics of rhetorics. They suggested that the first one, which has to be present and has to be owned by the rhetor who speaks, is the ethos, the ethical property of the rhetor, which validates me, which creates a feeling in the communication partner that they can rely on me, that they can trust in me, that I'm a credible person, that I'm not feckless, I'm not, suspicious. It is worth trusting in me. The second one is a set of techniques which is called pathos. It's the emotive movements of my speech, so my persuasive potential, in other words. The toolkit which I can involve and use all the time when I try to convince somebody about my business ideas, for example. We have to use some kind of pathos for this. I'm really sure that Professor Zita, during the next week, will speak about this and these kinds of necessities in details. And the third one is the logos, which is the literal meaning, the original meaning of this word from the Greek language means words. Logos means word, which is the value of the logically edited texts. Logos is kind of a thing that can be described as the content of my communication in terms of my words, in terms of my sentences, in terms of my logical structures, which I involve into my speech. When you have the opportunity to meet potential investors, potential clients, potential business partners, you always have to draw up your basic ideas in half a minute or in 2 minutes, in 5 minutes, or even more. If you are lucky, you will have even more time for this. But the point is that you have to show your logos, your pathos, and your ethos at the same time in order to be convincing and in order to argue successfully in your business communication. So that's why I wanted to show in the first place. And then there are three main questions concerning your business plan. And that's how I bridge towards our next major topic. You are all here because you apparently have some kind of idea or maybe some existing entrepreneurship or small venture or some small enterprise. So something which is at least in your head or even in real life, it is actualized yet. Let it be an existing thing or a planned something. You have to have the answer for three basic questions. What? It means what I would like to do as a business. What kind of business would I run? What kind of pursuits would I address myself for? So what should I do in this world as a businessman or businesswoman, of course. The second is the so what question. What should I do in order to launch my business, in order to be successful in it? So what resources do I have to have in order to begin to do my business? And the now what question relates to kind of a how kind question. So how can I achieve these goals? It's not about the so what do I need? It's this third question is about how I achieve these resources. So what are the steps and what happens when I launch my business? What happens when I begin to do what I want to do as a businesswoman? You can read some further details in the linked document. Anyway, that's not that important, but it's way more important to take a look at the other document, the third one, which is uploaded on Moodle. That is the business model canvas file, which will be the third major part of today's presentation, today's webinar with me. From now on, I will have the opportunity and I will have enough time to speak about each of these elements. I think this is a hands-on, outline to make a successful business strategy and a business proposition. So this sheet can be involved into your planning work when you start to elaborate your business plan, when you start to think about how to and what to do and what resources do you like to have and how you manage to have them. This is a good scheme for all of you to fill it out and to think through and try to find the proper details how to fill this gap. As you can see, if you open this thing in your web browser, you will have the opportunity to make these boxes go live, and you can read it and you can write into these boxes, and you can save it with the save as prompt, maybe as a PDF file or something like that. So the key helpers, the key partners, this is maybe the first important question in terms of your business. Under key partners, we can find direct business partners, we can find investors, we can find even friends, even built-in consumers, I would say, who are deeply engaged towards my own issue, my own business, and who will definitely be my clients later on. They can be my key partners. So what are basically the resources, the human resources I have in order to start to launch my business? This is a list of potential cooperations, partners in every possible sense. And just right after answering this first question, can we start to think about the key activities? What do you do? Formulate this shortly. This is going to be also your homework because we have the opportunity later on to have personal consultations and kind of a business coaching and observe these business plans and refine all these what you will create. Formulate this shortly. Define the aim of the business. Define how you help people. Maybe this is the most important part in every single business. And how do you help? Here we have this detailed, even more detailed answer for how do we help people. It is often called USP, which means unique selling proposition, or in a simpler way, value proposition. What are my ethical standards? What are my feelings towards helping people with my business? What is my background idea behind my business? Basically, that these are the most crucial questions. Value propositions can be rather detailed. These are quite long descriptions. It is a crucial part in the business plan. As you can see, it got right in the middle of this planning sheet. It's not just because of aesthetical concerns. It is really the central thing which must be defined. I mean, the value proposition must be defined in case of your business. What makes you unique? What makes my business unique among the racing partners, the other businesses which run the similar business? So what is the differentiation between you and your competitors? Okay. Customer relationships. How do I maintain contact with my clients? It can be a web page or other digital solutions. It can be, the personal contact. It can be other analog solutions, just like mailing, postal mails or letters or something. The only barrier is your fantasy. So feel free to imagine all the potential forums or platforms to maintain customer relationships. And the customer segments, whom do I want to help? So these are the target groups. Basically, we tend to define target groups according to at least 4 or 5 main parameters. Firstly, gender. Secondly, age. Thirdly, venue. City, village, etc., or geographical traits. Then level of schooling, so from primary school to PhD or something like this. And the fifth one is the financial status of my clients. So if you can define at least these kinds of socio-demographical categories, then it makes it easier to define your target group and to find them as well, not only defining, but finding. And then there is a special category, which is the sixth one, is the interest, which may vary in dozens of different areas. I don't really know whether you have any experience in handling Facebook or Meta advertisements. If you take a look at this Meta Business toolkit on the Facebook web page, if you start Facebook advertisement, basically you can define these ones which are here in this list, and moreover you can select from a various set of interest tags, from sports to do-it-yourself, from fashion to cars, from, I don't really know, travel to fitness, etc. And then there are dozens and hundreds of subcategories under these main categories. So yeah, if you use Google or Facebook Meta, sorry, you know what I'm speaking about. If you don't use Facebook Meta, that's not a problem. You can imagine these kinds of basic and main categories in people's interests, according to yours, according to your friends, according to your acquaintances. Okay, so what customer segments can I define in case of my business, in case of what my business does? The seventh key point is the channels. I mean the communication channels. How do the customers know me, and how the channels, the communication channels, are integrated with customer routines? Again, you can choose from various concrete and particular channels, homepage, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, WeContact, and many more, from Snapchat to Google Ads. That's another option. And it's out of range here to give deeper insight into how to handle Google AdWords, etc., etc. There are tons of useful and usable free supplementary material on the web, so feel free to learn in your whole lifetime. Yeah, just to cite an example, I am just trying to learn programming in the Python programming language. I don't really need any kind of special material for this. There are tons of free videos on the internet, and yeah, one can develop themselves. But if you start your business, you can count, and you must count with the problem that at one point you won't have more time than 24 hours a day. So there will be a time where you have to hire somebody to make the marketing, to write your texts, to make photos and creatives for the advertisements, to arrange your homepage, to program your customer support service, etc., etc. So yeah, the business owner has her strategic skills and tasks, and you just cannot keep in your hands everything in the business. The communication channels, maybe it's not you who have to choose between the communication channels. If you have a marketing expert next to you, just leave it up on him or her, and she or he will find the proper answer in selection of communication channels. Okay, and let's move to the point 8 and 9, which are the costs and the income. As you can see, there are some kinds of costs that are existing in your business model. They can be one-time costs. For example, if you start your business, you have to pay for the homepage one time, a bigger amount of money. And afterwards, there's the second category, which is a reoccurring type of cost, which is a monthly or weekly cost. I don't know, cleaning or maintaining the homepage, or optimizing the search engine optimization in your marketing, communication, etc., etc. These are monthly costs. These are plannable in easy way. But the cost includes the one-time costs as well. Don't forget about it. And basically, we tend to involve the taxes among the costs as well. And the most comfortable thing here is the down right corner, the income. Which can be planned, but sometimes it's misleading if you overestimate the potential of beginning business. Because if you launch your business, it is a common experience that in the first 3 months or 6 months, or if you're not lucky and skillful enough, even in the first 12 months, it has more costs than income. It's quite normal. In the first half year, it's really a struggle, even in Hungary or in every other case of, kind of, I don't forget what I wanted to say, sorry. It's a struggle in order to have to maximize the income and to minimize the costs. But there are these definite costs which you have to pay all the time from month to month. You have to make a subscription and to the internet. You have to pay some taxes in every single month. You have to pay the cleaner, or even if you don't have your your store on your own, then you have to pay for this as well. You have to hire some employees, etc., etc. As for the income, if you plan it in after a proper planning, after a proper research on the market, after having enough information about your competitors, the plans can be feasible. But in case of beginners in the entrepreneurship, it is often happening that they overestimate the incomes and underestimate the costs. Try to balance between the two, and try to overestimate the cost and underestimate the income. That's how you can balance in an optimal condition, counting with the worst case scenario. All the businesses have to have at least 3 months or enough money to run the business without any income for 3 months. So this is kind of an unwritten rule in the business world. The business which cannot survive for 3 or 6 months without any income, that is not stable enough. That's why I advise you to be careful with the income planning, either in this sheet or in anywhere else where you plan your business, where you plan the outline of your future business. Basically, this sheet can be extended with many further factors, with many aspects, with many points. Feel free to amend this as you will, but as a beginning, playground to create your business model, I think it's way enough. So at this point, I don't want to rob your time, and that's why I am going to stop talking right here, right now, stopping sharing my screen. And if you may have any questions, feel free to ask it. Otherwise, we could stop the video, I think. And we have some short time frame for potential discussions. No questions, no answers. Okay, I think in this case, I'm available on Moodle, I'm available in the WhatsApp group, I'm available via email, so feel free to write me anytime, and we will continue the project as we planned, so the further details will be provided by Oleg later on. Thank you for the participation today, and enjoy the upcoming webinars with Professor Komar. Thank you so much.
Thank you.